Good morning. I know people are still coming in, but let me get started. I'm Peter Hurst, the President and CEO of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. The council operates the Massachusetts MBDA Business Center, and we also are fortunate to have received a grant from the MBDA to operate the federal supplement program. And one of the things we're doing with both the center and the supplement funding is that we're trying to make minority businesses in New England aware of opportunities to get business from the federal, state, and local government. We are fortunate today to have William Randolph of Think Acquisition. William today is going to lead us in the second of a four-part series that is trying to help you become more aware of opportunities with government contracting, because the federal government is one of the largest buyer of goods and services in the country. So, this is the second series. William is going to talk about small business subcontracting and certifications. I want to welcome him, and I'm now turning over the floor to William. William, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurst. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm going to get my presentation up, and then we'll be ready to get going. Again, it is my pleasure to be with you, and we're going to be talking about small business subcontracting and the certifications that go along with them. And as Mr. Hurst said, this is webinar series number 2 of 4. All right, let's dive in. Just a little brief introduction, like, who's this guy and why is he talking to me? Why am I here? So I'm a retired federal government contracting officer, senior procurement executive. Started in the federal government in 1995 as a contract specialist and had various assignments within the Department of the Navy, United States Marine Corps. And my career culminated in being selected to the senior executive service, that's the highest level of government service for civilian agencies. And I was selected in 2009 and had an opportunity to serve in the Department of Homeland Security in a couple of assignments, Chief Procurement Officer Staff, Immigration and Customs as a Director of Contracts, and then being the Mission Support Director for the largest program inside of ICE. We managed about $5 billion at the time when we were doing that activity. I retired in 2016, did the consulting thing around the DC metro area for a few years, and then started my own company in 2019, primarily in the training business. So I'm a government contractor just like you. And part of my business is also helping other businesses, primarily small businesses, in business development and post-award contract administration. And today I have an opportunity to be with you here. So I'm really appreciative of that opportunity. Also want to say thank you. Thank you to the G&E MSDC and the MBDA for their service and their willingness, their invite to come and be a part of their program. The 6 New England states that they support and serve. I am in awe of the activity that they deliver and the value that they bring. So I just want to say thank you to them. Okay. So let's do a quick reminder. If you were in the first session, I shared some numbers, but I want to do a quick reminder for the folks that may not have been a part of that webinar. And we want to talk about the opportunity. In fiscal year 22, which just ended in September 30th of last year, fiscal year 22, the government-wide federal contract number was $692 billion. And let me say that again, $692 billion was the contract spent, not grants, not direct payments, not transfer payments, not entitlement payments. This is not entitlement spending, but this is federal contracts, $692 billion. And then when we look into the states that are governed or supported by the G&E MSDC, the subcategory spend of that 692 was over $46 billion collectively in the Greater New England states. Let's run through those really quickly, just to set the stage. I always like to set the stage. We're going to go from the lowest state spending, federal spending in the state, to the highest. Vermont at $504 million. We got Rhode Island at $1.2 billion. New Hampshire, $1.7 billion. Again, this was the spend last fiscal year. Maine at $2.7 billion. Now we have the jump. Massachusetts, $17.9 billion worth of contract spend. And then the largest, Connecticut, $22.3 billion. Okay, so if you know anything about Connecticut, you may have a sense of why that number is so large as compared to the others. Here are the spending by agency. And as you can see, Department of the Navy, they approached $25 billion in those categories, followed by more DoD activities, Air Force, Army, DLA. First civilian agency is the U.S. Mint, a couple $2 million. So that's where the money's going. Okay? You can follow the demand. Okay? I use the word demand intentionally because I always like to make a distinction between demand creation and demand capture. Many times in the commercial realm, companies have to introduce and educate the marketplace to their need for their goods and services that they provide and produce. Okay, that's, in my opinion, that's marketing, that's branding, that's sales, otherwise known as demand creation. You have to create your customers. There's a big distinction between that and the federal government, because the federal government does a small amount of demand creation. There's not a lot of people just kind of running around saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. I've got some new thing. It's a small sliver that is in the demand creation business. Most of it is in the demand capture business. Now, what do I mean by demand capture? What I mean is that the demand happens year over year over year over year. If the Navy spent about $25 billion in the greater New England area last year, then they're going to, on average, they're going to spend about $25 billion the year after, and the year after, and the year after. Okay, so federal government spending, it fluctuates, but it doesn't go from a big number to zero. So this is about demand capture, and government contractors are in the business, or should be in the business, of identifying the demand that they can serve, building a fence around it, okay? Putting a fence around it and saying, this is where I'm going to deliver value. This is where I'm going to penetrate the government marketplace. It is demand capture because the requirements are there. The government has spent over $600 billion for the last 8 years, okay? Culminating last year in $692 billion. That's the highest contract spend, okay, ever. Okay. Even surpassed the COVID years, $692 billion worth of contract spend. Okay. So it's about demand capture, not demand creation. There is a secret strategy, okay, in my opinion, for government contracting growth. There is a secret strategy, just like the recipe for Coke or Big Mac sauce. There's a secret in the vault. Okay, and we're going to show you. We're going to crack the vault and show you what the government contracting growth strategy is for small businesses. Okay, ready? It is, my colleagues, small business subcontracting. It's the cheat code. It's the collaboration, small businesses with large businesses, or small businesses with other larger, smaller businesses, to grow, develop, get your reps in. That's what I call it, getting your reps in by doing subcontracting. So let's dive into, let me show you why that's a reasonable approach to take. not only a reasonable approach, not just reasonable, but oftentimes a preferred, especially as you're entering the government marketplace. These are numbers from the latest census, 2020 census. Okay. There are 32.5 billion small businesses. That's the big number, but it's the number, it's the little number that always intrigues me on the left-hand side. That represents 99.9% of all US businesses. So just ponder that for a moment. Of all the number of businesses, 32.5 million of them represent 99.9% of all US businesses. Okay. Interesting data point. Let's go to the number on the right, the blue number on the right. 61.2% of small business employees. Okay, that's the number of employees that work in small businesses, which represent 46.8% of all US employees. Almost half, just a tad bit away from half of all the employees in the United States work for small businesses. This is why small business is important. And this is why the government makes public policy to support them. Makes public policy to support them. So, a couple of points I want to make. Number one, large businesses in the government contracting arena tend, most often, more likely than not, have small business subcontract goals. Meaning, when the federal government awards something to a large business, not only do they award it to the business, they also, along with that award, is a small business subcontracting goal, saying that 10, 20, 25, 33% of the work that's awarded to the large business must be set aside, must be performed by small businesses. The takeaway there is the large businesses actually need you. They actually need you in order to succeed. Okay. Point number two, serving as a small business subcontractor is a lucrative business model. I have clients right now that all they do is subcontracting. They don't pursue any work on their own. They don't try to hop on a horse and run the race and see who wins. They just walk to the finish line and see which jockey and horse crosses the finish line, and then they reach out in their space. They don't try to pick the winners. They just identify them after the race is over. Very lucrative business model. Here's point number three. Large businesses don't often publicize or push out their outreach events. There's nothing equivalent to a sam.gov for industry. There's no one place aggregator where the requirements go. What they do is they use their own databases. Small businesses that have been motivated, incentivized enough to engage with the large businesses, become part of their vendor databases and vendor pools, subcontractor pools. That's where they go look. So you must find them. They don't come looking for you. It's a very, very important distinction from the commercial environment. Okay, so let's talk about the various set-aside programs and associated certifications. There are 5 of them. We're going to talk about these first 3. There are 5. The Small Business Set-Aside Program, that is a numbers-driven dynamic. Small Business Administration sets by NAICS codes, their service codes, industry codes. They identify by industry codes top line revenue numbers or employee numbers for each NAICS code, line of business activity or line of business code. And if you're under those either annual revenue numbers or employee numbers, congratulations, you're a small business. You have to certify that. You have to acknowledge that. And once you certify that, you submit a proposal certifying that you're a small business. Then that gives the government the opportunity to look behind the curtain and see, prove it, trust but verify. So small business, the first level is just the general small business program. 8A is probably the next most popular, next most utilized. Very distinct process to become 8A certified. It's a net worth model. The hurdle is a net worth hurdle, and having a historical disadvantage, either socially or economically, demonstrated in the marketplace. That combo platter is what gets you into the 8A Small Business Development Program. Now, it is called the 8A Small Business Development Program because that's exactly what it is. It's a 9-year program. It's a 9-year program. You have 9 years. They give you a special key for 9 years. It's actually designed to teach you how to be self-sufficient. But you got 9 years, and once the 9 years is over, they take your key. So it's a very valuable program to be in if you are eligible, but know that you're on the clock. You got 9 years to be self-sustaining. Hub Zone program, probably the hardest to attain. Hub zones are geographically based. It encourages businesses to be located, so their headquarters, their primary place of residence, place of business, be in a historically underutilized business zone, hub zone, historically underutilized business. And 35% of the employees have to live in a hub zone. Doesn't have to be the same hub zone that the company is in, but they have to have addresses in the hub zone, in a hub zone. That's the test, 2-part test for the Hub Zone program. There are set-asides for that program, 3% actually. Let's talk about the next two. Service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. And I would add in here, I would combine in veteran-owned small businesses. This program is pretty clear about its certification requirements. 1, you have to be a veteran. And 2, you have to have a service-disabled, service-connected disability. Okay. I don't think anyone's going into the military to get disabilities, but if you come out with one, then there's an opportunity for you to be certified in this capacity. This is for the duration, as long as you're a veteran, as long as it's 51% owned by a service-connected veteran, then that's the eligibility. You have to demonstrate ownership, veteran status, and service-disabled status. Surprisingly, this is the one I see where I see bad actors the most. People are using service-disabled veterans to front their companies. There have been a couple of them recently. Gone to court, got settlements, judgments against the companies that there are service-disabled veterans in position only. Ownership really doesn't reside there. So you have to have the 51% ownership stake. And then the women-owned, last but certainly not least, the women-owned and the economically disadvantaged women-owned focus on female ownership, women ownership of businesses, 51%. and have the right XY chromosome type. Pretty simple. Very simple. Women-owned small businesses. And the economically disadvantaged women-owned, they have a specific set of NAICS codes where they have been underrepresented. They've identified them. It's probably about 30 or 40 of them. Specific NAICS codes where there's been historical underrepresentation. So they're using the set-asides to address that. These are the small business programs and the associated certifications that also apply to small business subcontracting. Okay. Part 44, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, is the big regulation that governs federal procurement. Part 44 defines and then describes what is a subcontract and a subcontractor. Okay. It's really the relationship with the government. Subcontractors don't have direct relationships with the government. The prime contractor has a relationship with the government. Anyone else that is doing services in support of that activity is considered a sub. And it could be first tier, second tier, third tier. I've seen as high as 3 or 4 tiered subcontractors. But it's all about the framing and the policy and the regulation and the guidance. It's all about who has the relationship, who has the primary relationship with the government. Primary relationship with the government is the prime contractor. The subcontractor is all others that may be providing goods and services in order to meet the requirements. But they don't have a direct relationship with the government. They have a direct relationship with the prime. That's how that works. Okay. I know this is a total eye chart. So when I put it in, I was like, I know it's a total eye chart, and I hate putting in things that are hard for people to read because when you want them to read it. But the goal here is simply to show you, this can be easily found on the SBA website, Small Business Administration website. This is the 2023 goals. The point here is when you see prime and sub, know that the 24 agencies that are at the cabinet level agencies, these are agencies that negotiate their own small business prime and subcontracting goals. Okay. So the columns under the goal prime, all of those are prime contracting goals, meaning that the small business is the prime. The small business has the relationship with the government. But when you go over to the 5 columns, that are under the green subcontracting goal, please know that also these 24 agencies also have negotiated subcontracting goals, meaning work that is awarded to large businesses still has the responsibility of having subcontractor goals met for each agency. For instance, the Department of Energy has a small business subcontracting goal of 49%. Okay. That's significant. Let's see if I can find another one. The Department of Labor has a 60% subcontracting small business goal, meaning 60% of the work that goes out of the door to large businesses must also include small business participation. That's a dynamic set of rules and guidance and goals. Then in the successive columns, they cut it down by the specific type of socioeconomic small business category. 5% for a small disadvantage, 8A program lives in there. Subcontract for service-disabled veteran-owned, 3%. Women-owned, 5%. Hub zone, 3%. So in addition to the prime goals, there's also the subcontracting goals. So let's talk about some hurdles. These are the hurdles that often face small businesses, when they're entering, attempting to grow in the federal government contracting space. The complexity of the process, it's just challenging. The government even has its own language and lexicon. It's complex. It's complex. I'll show you a stat in a minute just to prove how complex it is, and how complex the government says it is. The second is competition. Okay, that's 692 billion. Just don't think you're going to go and grab a cup and dip your cup full of contracts out of that 692. There's a lot of people, a lot of companies competing for that. But there are pockets where there are few competing. Data can help you solve that problem. Financial constraints, just being in business itself. There's some financial constraints. But in the government, it's elevated because of the long sales cycles. Even in our business, half of our business is in the commercial realm and half of it is in the government. I've had experiences in the commercial realm where you're talking to a business owner in the morning and you're under contract by the afternoon. That doesn't work in the federal government. You might be having an initial conversation with the government in January, and it may be June or July before it's decided who wins. The government's contract cycle is counted in months, not days or weeks. Therefore, there are financial constraints for having an ongoing business concern while those sales cycles are playing themselves out. Limited resources and expertise could be a challenge, especially for small businesses, having to attract the talent necessary to be able to be competitive, attract the talent to increase the levels of expertise. It's a real thing. Past performance requirements for the new small business owner. Capturing, stacking your past performance, it's a challenge. You've got to start. Everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone tends to start with zero past performance. So building that past performance is important. Cash flow, similar to the financial constraints, just being able to cover your costs, having enough revenue, especially if you're having employees, you're bringing employees to the table. It's really important. Meeting the size standards, okay? Keeping those top line revenue and employee numbers in mind. I've seen time and time again, a company wins a big contract and it kicks them out of the small business, status. So it's a balancing game. I think that's a problem most businesses would like to have, but it still affects access to information. It's not easy. It's not hard, but it's not easy to understand government contracting. Not easy. The data's all over the place. Access information is all over the place. You've got to have a strategy to find it and then consume it. Marketing and networking, it's a thing. Okay? The activities necessary to let people know you exist. I don't know if any of you remember the movie that was put out in 1989. I looked it up a couple of days ago. I can't believe it. Field of Dreams. Said, if you build it, they will come. That was the tagline of the movie. If you build it, they will come. Guy had a dream about building a baseball field in the middle of his cornfields, baseball diamond in the middle of his cornfields. And if you build it, the players will come. My colleagues, that only works in the movies. You have to let people know you exist. You have to let people know you exist. And then compliance with rules and regulations. Lots of rules and regulations, lots of compliance activity with the government. So these are challenges that could stump many. Okay? But here's my opinion. By utilizing subcontracting activities, given small business can partner, collaborate, learn, and work to overcome many of these challenges by sitting and watching the primes do their work, by strategically partnering with the prime, where the risk is off to some degree from being the relationship with the government, but you're close enough to see how a prime or a series of primes or a group of primes handle these problems. It's like having a mentor, like having a paid mentor. So that's just why I believe small business subcontracting is so valuable. Okay, so let's talk about some strategies. Understanding the market is critical as a strategy to overcome this activity, to overcome the challenges that may show up as a small business. Defining your niche, knowing who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and not try to be everything for everybody. There's a value proposition there. Doing the things that have the necessary certifications and regulations and registrations, excuse me. And we talked about compliance issues. The government requires lots of things. They got a list of stuff. So making sure you are ready for all those activities. You've got all the blocks checked, I's dotted and T's crossed. Whatever category or whatever certifications that you're looking for, making sure that you're ready to go, because the government will check. They have a responsibility to do so. Developing a strong capability statement, there's value in that. Okay, this is your primary marketing piece. Let people know you exist. More people will see your marketing, your capability statement than will ever see your face. They will ever see your face. So that's important. Networking and building relationships. This is a people business. This is a people business. And if you believe that, and you also believe that people do business with people they like, know, and trust, then networking and building relationships are key. Talk about a couple more. Got a few more. Mentorship and assistance programs. There's lots of programs out there, including MBDA, G&E, MSDC, Small Business Administration, what used to be called the PTACs, now they're the APEX, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They're now called the APEX centers. Lots of resources out there. Seeking those subcontracting opportunities. You have to go and let people know you exist, that you're interested. It won't just fall out of the sky from you, I promise. It was just going to come up and ring your doorbell. You have to let people know you're interested. And that's a viable strategy for you. Focus on past performance and customer satisfaction. Critical piece of the model. Maintaining compliance and ethical standards. Okay, just doing business in a certain way. The government cares. The government cares. They have a whole infrastructure behind them looking for bad actors to prosecute bad actors. And it's quite robust. So maintaining compliance and ethical standards are helpful. Be persistent and patient. That's the last one, but certainly not least. It's continuous activity. I always think about it as when I see a swan gliding across the water, it looks so elegant on top of the water. That's the way our businesses should look. But you look under the surface, man, those feet are going. Okay? It can be persistent. It has to be happening. Keep it going. Keep it going. You have to keep knocking on the doors. You have to keep picking up the phone call. You have to keep telling your story. Keep writing emails. Keep responding to emails. Keep the activity going. And then along with that, you also have to be patient because it just doesn't happen overnight. I know you might find somebody online that'll say, yep, I can, for a few $1,000s, I can get you some contracts tomorrow by the end of the week. And then when you ever hear that, everyone promises anything for a price, run. It takes time and persistence. How do I know? I've lived it on both sides, but also the Small Business Administration will tell you right out the gate. This is small, but I'm going to read it. The government, what makes a successful contractor? This comes right from the Small Business website, links right up at the top. The government prefers to work with established, reliable businesses, have a track record of delivering quality goods and services on a timely budget. Question is your reputation strong in your industry? Okay, let's go to the meat. Not only can it take a long time to win your first government contract, it can take a significant amount of money. Some businesses, I would add, most businesses spend between $80,000 and $130,000 to earn their first contract. Small Business Administration, this is their website. Here's the second one. It also could take up to 2 years to start making a return on your investment. You'll need to have enough cash flow to sustain your business. Maintaining a diverse list of private sector clients can help offset any potential initial losses. And this is Small Business Administration. $80,000 to $130,000 worth of investment in 2 years. And I'm sure there's someone on the planet that just fell into a contract right out of the gate. I'm positive there is someone, but here's what the Small Business Administration is saying. Trying to setting expectations. But they also give some resources. Here's the Small Business Administration resources. Directory of Federal Government Prime Contractors with Subcontracting Plans. They have a website that tells you right there, here are the larges. Here are the larges that have small business subcontracting plans that may have opportunities. And this is going to be as close to a blinking neon sign as that says, look under that rock. That's going to be the closest to the blinking neon sign as you're going to get. But they give you some resources also. Here are some others. The General Services Administration, GSA, also has some resources. There's their website right up at the top. You have opportunities for subcontracting, joint ventures, and contractor teaming arrangements. They have a subcontracting directory of opportunities. There's opportunities. What will matter most, colleagues, is your capability. You get a lot of stuff, a lot of inputs that make up what your capability is, but it's your capability. When we advise clients, we always say your capabilities will find the doors you should walk through. Your certifications will help you pick the lock. Okay. Your capability will help you find the doors that you should be walking through. Don't lead with your certifications. On some level, the government doesn't care about that. You have all the certifications, but if you can't do the work, then we never get to have a conversation about the certifications. Your capability will find the doors you should be walking through. Your certifications will help you pick the lock. And then next is, on top of that, is collaboration. This is where the small business subcontracting comes into play. Find the larges that are doing business in your space that are already winning work. Sit at the foot of the master and learn the craft. This is like going to the pool at the Y and working on your stroke. Before you have to go swim in the ocean with the sharks in shark-infested water. You got to get your stroke down. You can't be thinking about the sharks and your stroke. Get your form down. Okay? One of the ways to get your form down is to go partner with someone that's already swimming. Watch them swim. Watch their stroke. Critique their stroke. They're swimming. They're successful. We'll do it in a collaborative manner. All right, we're on the downward stroke for the webinar. Here's some next steps. Then we're going to get into a little Q&A. The first easy button, folks, is to reach out to the center and connect with the existing large and small business members in your space. That's the easiest ones. They're there. They're in your community. They're in your area. They're in your six-state region. They're winning already. Okay. We'll find the ones that are winning already. Let's make sure they know you and you know them. That's the easy button. That's the first thing you should do right out of the gate. We got a couple other steps that we encourage you to think about. Again, you should know them and they should know you. And we've got some next steps. Number one is, this is the second of the sponsored webinars. We got 2 more coming. Crafting competitive proposals on April 25th. And then engaging with the government and the utilization and importance of capability statements on May 8th. Second, please know that there is one-on-one consulting opportunities available with yours truly. All you have to do is connect with the center, and they are sponsoring 1 hour virtual meetings. If there's something you think I can help you with in terms of the things we talked about today or other things in the government contracting arena and life cycle, just reach out. They'll set up times and we'll make it happen. I'd be honored to work with you. And then third, don't forget about the certifications. Not only the MBE level certifications at the states level, at this area level, but your certifications at the national level. If you qualify, get them. If you qualify, get them, line them up. Again, they are not used as a business development strategy. They just help you pick the lock once you found the business. And then also, please remember that the center is having matchmaking activities, matchmaking support services, events. So stay tuned. Keep your ear to the ground in terms of connecting. This is a people business. This is a people business. Okay. And with that, we're going to open it up. We've got about 15 minutes or so for Q&A time. So I'd welcome the opportunity to connect. I've got one more slide just to say reach out. Please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, or if you're looking for services, go the center route. But if you just want to connect with me, be in my community and network, please feel free to reach out. Okay.
So William, we already got questions coming in. Do you want me to read them?
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Yes, sure.
So the first question we got is from one of our well-known MBs, Carlton O'Neill. He says, William, great presentation. How much does past performance in the corporate environment transfer to past performance being sought by the federal sector?
So it is not a direct, it takes a little work to shape it. So yes, corporate experience works well. It just takes a little bit of effort to put it into government speak so they can recognize it. That's the challenge that I often see, is that many will take corporate experience, corporate past performance, and they'll write it in corporate speak and then give it to the government. And the government's like, I don't know what that is. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time and effort to turn those experiences using government lexicon, how they ask for things, how they write for things, how they request goods and services. But yes, it transfers well. Just got to take the time and effort to decipher and decode it in a fashion that that government buyers and end users can consume it.
So thanks for that great question, Carlton. Any other questions?
I see a couple in the Q&A.
Okay.
I see a couple in the Q&A, Peter. So I'm gonna go with this first one. Is the 3% set aside for all programs, or does each certification have a different set aside? Yes, each one has a different set aside. Now some of the numbers are the same, but yes, each socioeconomic category has a different set aside. Small disadvantage is now at 12% prime, 5% subcontracting. Women-owned, 5% prime, 5% sub. Service disabled, 5% prime, 5% sub. Hub zones, 3% prime, 3% hubs. So while some of the numbers are the same, they actually count them differently and they fill the buckets differently, depending on the socioeconomic category. There's a second one that says, will we have access to all of the resources listed in the PowerPoint? Yeah, we'll make sure we always share the PowerPoint at the end. So you'll have everything you see here. You'll have a static copy of it. We'll make sure we get it back to the center and they can distribute it. So yes, the answer there is yes. Are there any more questions? This is your time, colleagues. Anything you'd like to for me to expound on or add to or clarify? These are good questions.
William, I don't see any other questions coming in.
Okay.
So last call for questions, but as we make that last call, I want to remind everyone of the availability of William for one-on-one consultations to talk about this whole government contracting process in more detail. If you're interested, there's some more coming in, William.
Yeah, I see a couple. So one, I see another one. So I'm having a bit of friction of obtaining my cage. Can I get assistance? Peter, I don't know if does the center help in that regard in terms of cage code assistance?
We'll find a solution. If you reach out to Harold Blackwell, his email address is on our website, or reach out to me. Let me put my email address in the chat. I'm not going to answer the question, but I will find the answer.
I love it. Resourceful. All right. And I see another one that says, thank you, Peter and William. What are a couple of differences between the support we can receive through our MBDA Business Center compared to our local Apex Center? I am not aware, so I'll talk to the piece that I know. The Apex Center, which is similar, which is the old PTAX, they are focused on, they have truly procurement assistance folk from a government perspective. It's funded by DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency. Therefore, they are focused on government contracting. So if you have true federal government contracting questions, the Apex Center is probably the best place for tactical federal government contracting. It could be a source for the cage code one as well, Peter. I will defer on what services the MBDA Business Center offers.
So I think the best way to look at it with the MBDA Center, we're providing not only business development services, which for the private sector are targeted introductions and sustained follow-up, but also public sector introductions. We've become aware of a lot of opportunities from the federal, state, and local government. So even though this particular webinar is focused on federal contracting, we're also very active in helping our MBEs and clients of the center find and hopefully close opportunities with state and local governments. In addition to the business development services, the center also provides a robust suite of capacity building services, primarily in a one-on-one consulting context focused on financial management, including access to capital, strategic planning, marketing, and process improvement. So we're more than just business development on the center side, even though it is very important, because a lot of times we really want to make sure that you're contract ready when you knock on the door to try to get business, whether it's from a public sector buyer or a private sector buyer.
Awesome. I see another one. It says, I'm interested in one-on-one consultation with Mr. Randolph, and there is a email there. So anonymous attendee, I don't have a name there, but what I would encourage you to do is to respond back to the center through the invite that came from the center for the webinar, and there should be some points of contact in there.
Right.
Start there, and then they'll make the connection with me.
Also, I put my email address in the chat, so you can reach out to the center or reach out to me, and we'll get someone in touch with you and set up that one-on-one with William.
Awesome. Any other questions? Good questions. Good questions, Phil. Again, as I mentioned in the presentation, it's not hard, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's not hard. Okay, it's a strategy. There's a tactics. You have to have strategies and tactics. This is an activity. This is a different environment than the commercial realm. It is a demand capture environment, and I think many times people have to wrap their heads around it, like, wow, I just need to go find out what's there. Here's the experience that I've often seen is that business owners go into the marketplace, they go into the business, in the business they want to be in, and the marketplace then tells them what business they should be in. Okay. I think it's different in the federal government. You have to go and find the demand, and the demand will tell you the business you should be in. Because while the government buys over 600, almost $700 billion worth of stuff, they don't buy everything. They don't sell, they don't consume everything. So it is a demand. It is and it's too big to try to go into the marketplace and say, stand on the sidewalk with a sign and say, you need this government, you need this government. It doesn't work that way. So it's a different, slightly different mindset from a marketing and branding and sales perspective. It's finding the demand that you have a competitive advantage, that you can do and have a competitive advantage. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but you have a competitive advantage that will separate you from your competitors. You have a differentiator. So you have to go find those things where you have a differentiator. That's how you build a government contracting business. Questions? I see a number. Let's see. Do you know of any loan programs while you're waiting for government contracts? I don't personally. The center, Peter was just talking about funding opportunities and funding mechanisms. So the center may have some resources there. I don't think Apex will be a resource for that. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is on the demand and contracting side, but I'm sure there are lots of resources out there that may be available.
So Mark, shoot me an email, and in your email, just let me know what state your business is headquartered in, because the response for potential solutions will depend on what state you're in. But we can definitely help you.
There's no questions. No question. Okay.
Hey, well, look, William, thanks again for a very informative hour. Your expertise is invaluable, and thank all of you who attended today. We hope that this has been fruitful. Let me just end by saying, if Mark, if you want to follow up on access to the loan program, shoot me an email. Person who's interested in a one-on-one with William, shoot me an email and we'll get that set up. Look forward to seeing you at our next 2 sessions. And if we don't speak soon, have a great weekend, wonderful holiday, and stay safe.
Thank you. Be well.
Yeah.